Hello, everyone. Today would have been Elvis Presley's 83rd birthday, and in honor of Elvis, I felt like making a video about something, but didn't know what to do. So I figured I would just grab one of the early albums, an album that I have not yet talked much about, and just do a ranking, my personal least favorite to most favorite tracks on the album. Okay, this album I'm talking about is this one. It's called For LP Fans Only. I've always liked the title of that. And this is a pretty nice, spiffy looking copy of it in good shape, and I'm happy to have this. This came out in 1959. It was during the period where Elvis had gone into the army, and the colonel was concerned, along with RCA, wanting to make sure that Elvis's image and name was still out there during the period where he was in for military service. So they put together a bunch of old records, really, singles. Took some of the Sun sessions from Sun Studios that were recorded in 1954 and 1955, took a handful of those, and some singles from 1956. And we got this, which, as I was preparing this video, I started to think just maybe another candidate for my all-time favorite Elvis album. Every time when people ask, what is your favorite Elvis album, I mention a lot of other ones. The first Elvis Presley album. I sometimes mention Elvis is Back. I even like the Loving You soundtrack, but I very rarely think about this. And this is really a good compilation. That's the whole thing, in the 1950s, they didn't really put albums out a lot for rock and roll singers. For the most part, they thought of rock and roll in terms of 45s and singles, so maybe some EPs. So that's why I guess this was titled For LP Fans Only. It's kind of a novelty back then. I like that approach. Okay, before I start, I want to give a shout out. I promised I would. There's somebody who's relatively new to making videos here in the music vinyl community, CD community, the whole thing. And he goes by the name of Rossi, Rossi, Rossi 1973. And I'm going to leave a link down there if you want to just click on and check out his channel. He has a lot of good Elvis stuff to show. Anyway, so let's take the 10 tracks that are on this album here on what would have been Elvis Presley's 83rd birthday, and let's just go through them. And I'll tell you my personal opinion, at least today, of what I think are the least to best. Okay, I got my list up here, so I'm going to refer to that every now and then. All right, number 10, I went with the song My Baby Left Me as the last song on here that I like. I mean, kind of the least. And the reason I put it, I'll be honest with you, My Baby Left Me, to me, is just nothing really more than a rewrite or, retread of That's All Right, Mama. It's really basically the same exact song. And to me, just based on that alone, it kind of turns me off. It's just so blatantly another version of That's All Right, Mama that it's not my favorite track on here, and I have to put at least. Now, that's number 10. Now, number 9, I went with a song which I'm betting a lot of people in the comments are going to say would be dead last for them. Let's see if I'm right in the comments. I'm going to pick the song Poor Boy. Poor Boy was from the movie Love Me Tender, Elvis's first movie, and it's also a song that was previously released on the extended play, the EP 45 of the Love Me Tender soundtrack collection. And it's repeated here on this album in LP form. Poor Boy, I like it actually. I think Poor Boy's pretty good, and I think it also works pretty well in the movie Love Me Tender. But when I'm listing these tracks, it falls at number 9 for me. Number 8, I went with Playing for Keeps. I think a lot of people are going to raise their eyebrows at that. I think Playing for Keeps is a song that's pretty well liked, probably, by a lot of Elvis fans. I think what I really like best about it is the middle part. I like Elvis's voice in the middle. He's got a lot of passion, a lot of real feeling, and in the middle parts, the middle bridge, I guess you call it, of the song. But I like the middle better than I like the rest of it, I guess you could say. So I put it there at number 8. Number 7, I put the song You're a Heartbreaker. And no particular reason. It's one of the Sun recordings that were repeated here on this album for this collection. And I don't know. It's just that I guess out of the order that I want to put these in, it's just not one of my top. No other reason for that. So that's number 7. Number 6, For number 6, I picked another of the Sun session recordings. It's the song "I'm Left, You're Right, She's Gone," and it's a good song. I enjoy it, I really do. But my only my only reason for putting it here, as I say, is because in this particular case, it just winds up that way at number 6. It's got a good feel to it, but it just doesn't make the top 5 for me. And speaking of the top 5, that's where we are right now. So I'm pretty convinced that these 5 songs are easily, for me anyway, the best 5 songs on this album. What order was I going to put them in was always the dilemma when you do these things. For number 5, I went with the song "Shake, Rattle, and Roll." It's a really good classic rock song, and I think the reason I put it at number 5 is because other people have done this song. Bill Haley, I believe, did it, right. It's I don't know. It's just nothing really new. It's great. That's why it's in the top 5. And Elvis does a great job of it. But I put it at 5 basically for the reason that it's kind of like retreading, or a song that we've heard. Number 4, I would say the same thing with number 4. A great song. Elvis does a great job. A classic. "Lordy Miss Claudie." "Lordy Miss Claudie" was done by Lloyd Price originally, and it's funny when you think about it. That's 1952. We always think of rock and roll as starting in '54, really, with "Rock Around the Clock" and Elvis. But I really wonder sometimes, because I'm thinking "Lordy Miss Claudie." That's more like a bluesy thing, but New Orleans and everything. But "Lordy Miss Claudie" is in some ways it's like early rock and roll. Anyway, I put it at number 4. Number 3, I put a track called "I Was the One." I really like that. It's a great Elvis song. And "I Was the One." We hear the train coming down the line. I couldn't resist. So anyway, "I Was the One." I always liked that song, and it was from a single, that was released already. RCA put on this album. Number 3, really good song. Now, number 2, these two could have flip flopped, but for number 2, I went with "That's All Right, Mama." Otherwise, just really called "That's All Right." "That's All Right." What can you say? Really great. A lot of great instrumentation on there, guitar, a classic Elvis tune. And we got a little hint just a few moments ago when the train came by. "Mystery Train" is my number 1 track. That's how I feel now. It could be different next year if I do this again. But "Mystery Train" is such a great song, and Elvis sings it so great with his voice. And I went with "Mystery Train" as number 1. So that's my picks for this album, which I'm going to try to remember next time when people ask me favorite Elvis albums, because I think it's really good. And I always think to myself that I say when it comes to Elvis in the early days, I always think of his albums as a collection of different songs from different releases put together in a compilation. I rarely think of it as him going in specifically to cut an album, movie songs and so on. Anyway, that's for another day. Happy birthday to Elvis. Thank you everybody for watching.